Look at this thing. Hi everyone, welcome back. My name is Brooke and this is Popsicle-frog Knits. And today I have a different setup because I got a tripod for Christmas, which is very exciting. Which it's not just for YouTube videos. I want to go into film production, so that was what I wanted for Christmas, and I got a lovely tripod and I'm very excited about it. So we have a new setup and it's perfect for this video, which is going to be everything I knit in 2022, aka my first year of knitting. And it's gonna be long, I'm pretty sure, and I could potentially have to break it up into 2 videos because I don't want it to be like a monster of a video, which I have a feeling it's going to be because there are so many things. I have all of the garments I've made on my lovely little clothing rack that I made when I was in college because my flat near uni did not have closets. I lived in 3 different apartments. The first one had no closet. The second one had the tiniest closet you've ever seen. Like, it wouldn't even fit a body to stand in it because it was in the corner of a room. Then the third place I lived also didn't have a closet. So I made clothing racks when I was in college, and it's coming in very handy at this time. Didn't know it when I made them that they would be so useful, but they are. And they were my closet for 2 years. So, that was a very long-winded intro. I don't even... Whew, okay. This is probably going to be a slightly chaotic video. I do have notes. I have everything written down on my computer. Except my computer has locked itself. Everything written down in Notion because I love Notion so much. Not sponsored, I just like them. And I have it in chronological order. So because it is my first full year of knitting, I started knitting December of last year, like 2 days before Christmas. I started knitting, and so everything that I've ever knit is going to be in this video, except the first sock I made, which I am working on another video about, like, looking back on my first project, which was a sock, and doing some fun things with that. So keep an eye out for that in a couple of weeks. I didn't get it done as early as I wanted to, so it's probably going to be a video in the new year once I finish filming everything. It's just been hectic over the holidays and I didn't have time. And I wanted to film this before I go out of town with my family. So, I feel like we should just get into it. I am currently, not all of this is on Ravelry. I have a lot of it on there. I'm going to be adding, like, after this, I'm going to take nice pictures of everything and make sure there's photos and that my notes are all updated on Ravelry, so you can go check out all of the, like, modifications I made or changes. I will say what size that I made, but I do want to preface this with, but I lost a little bit of weight since I started knitting. So some of the things I've knit are too big on me now, and I'm planning to frog some of those projects, but I still wanted to show them. For things that don't fit me, I'm going to insert pictures of when they did fit me so you can see what it looked like. Also, some of the, specifically I have a pair of shorts that I knitted. I am not trying those on because it is barely above freezing outside and I'm cold and I will not be putting shorts on. So I'll insert pictures of me wearing things if I do not try them on. And I think I'm gonna try to keep it pretty quick. I'm gonna talk about the pattern, the yarn, a little bit about the process, or if, like, slight modifications I made. Because, I mean, a lot of this, I think, like, half of the stuff on this rack you would have seen if you watched my podcast episodes, because I started podcasting at the start of August, so it was everything I made in July. So The 6 months before that, I don't think I've shown any of those things in this video, in my videos before. And I have a lot of accessories as well, but I want to go in chronological order. So I have my list, which I'm going to make sure stays awake. And I'm going to be going between the pile in my chair and everything on my clothing rack. I feel like my arms look really stiff when I was doing that. I think I'm just a wee bit anxious. So it's probably going to be a longer one, so grab your knitting, crafting, grab a drink, because staying hydrated is very important, especially if you're in the super cold weather the US is having. If you are, I hope you're doing all right. I hope your families are all right. I know it's been a crazy week weather-wise in the US, so like it got down to 22 in Houston, which is insane. Okay, so before I get into it, I just wanted to make a couple of disclaimers, I guess that feels like the wrong word, but I can't think of another one. So, 2 things. 1, a lot of the yarn that I started working with is from Hobby Lobby. And if you've been here since my first episode, you'll know where my stance is on Hobby Lobby. But if you haven't, I no longer buy yarn from Hobby Lobby because 1, I don't want to support that company, and 2, I'd rather just buy other commercial yarns that are nicer and don't support Hobby Lobby as a corporation. But a lot of the things that I made at the beginning, that was the store I could find yarn at. Like, the yarn at Michael's wasn't great, and there's a huge Hobby Lobby by my house, and they had yarn, and they had hand-dyed yarn, and I'm gonna call it hand-dyed yarn because they have to be underpaying people for them to be selling hand-dyed yarn for $14. But that's my take on it. And also I want to mention size inclusivity. So when I started my knitting journey, I never thought about size inclusivity. Like, it was not something that crossed my mind. And kind of as I got more into knitting, more into the knitting community, it was something I started thinking about. And I've done like a talk on size inclusivity before as well. But because this video is going to be featuring patterns that are not size inclusive, I'm gonna say what the size range is, and you should, towards the end of the year, I've like funneled in to knitting what most would consider relatively size inclusive or completely size inclusive patterns. So I do have some on here that are not size inclusive, but I still wanted to share them because it's a part of my knitting journey. And going forward, I'm like, if a pattern doesn't go up to at least a 3XL, I don't favorite it. I don't do anything. I really prefer when it goes up to a 5XL. But I think the standards are still kind of changing and evolving. If I'm wrong, please tell me that. That's just my understanding of it. And so fully size inclusive usually means going up to at least a 60-inch bust, not finished garment size. So we're gonna now get into the video. I know that was probably a little bit not as fun, but I do want to talk about it because both of those things are very important to me. So let's go. So we're gonna start with the first thing that I made in 2022. I keep wanting to say 2020. My mind still thinks it's 2020. I don't know if anybody else is like that. Excuse me. I'm a little bit sniffly because of the weather, but I'm all good otherwise. Hopefully it's not too distracting. But we're going to start with the first thing that I made, which is on this chair. So the first pattern I ever followed is the pattern for these socks. I made one sock in 2021, and it had a ton of mistakes, so I decided not to make a second sock of it. I decided I would pick a different yarn and make a pair using the pattern. So I had like trialed the pattern basically with my first sock, and I'm not going to talk too much about that because again, I'm making another video all about that sock and my first knitting project. But these are the Camp Socks by Ozetta Knitwear, or Haley Smedley, and unfortunately these are way too long for me. Let's see if I can do a close-up of them. I gotta hide my face. I hope they're in focus. They're a large sock. I have pretty tiny feet. I wear a size 7 US women's. Also, I will put my measurements and info in the little box, description box. Is that it? I used to watch John and Hank Green all the time, and they called it the doobly-doo, so that's what it is in my head. But I don't think anyone calls it that anymore. So in the little box below, I'll have my measurements so you can kind of get an idea about how things fit on me. But I wear a 7 and I'm a little under 5'8", so my feet are small proportionate to the rest of me. But I made a pair of these socks, and I made them on DPNs because that was what I started knitting on. And I don't know if you can tell, but my tension changed drastically. The one sock is way bigger than the other sock. So I haven't done anything with these. I really should give them to someone, except look at the difference in the length of these socks. It's hard to see because of the yarn. I don't know. It's pretty significant. So, and these haven't been blocked, and I feel like they would grow so much if I blocked them. So they just kind of hang out in my room as a reminder. I don't know what I'm gonna do with them. But that's the first like fully finished item that I made, which is exciting. So, oh, my computer fell asleep. Okay, so then those are out of the way. We have some knitting fails in this as well. These are things I finished, so I'm not showing any UFOs or unfinished objects or whips in this. I just want it to be things that I finished. But January, I had been knitting for less than a month, and I made some grave errors in the things that I made. So after I did the socks, I wanted to make a beanie. And I was obviously very new to knitting. I was not really in like the knitting community on Instagram yet, and so I didn't know what Ravelry was, so I didn't know about patterns really, other than the one that I had bought because it got recommended to me on Instagram. And so I found a YouTube video that had a beanie that looked like one that I wanted. It was like a fisherman style, not fisherman's rib, but like a fisherman style. And so I followed that tutorial. Unfortunately, didn't know what gauge was. Didn't do any measurements. I just followed the video blindly, thinking that no matter what, everything would turn out the same as in that video. And you know what? I was wrong. And the outcome is hilarious. So let me grab my second object that I made. It's this beanie. So come on. It is this beanie. I forgot to mention with the socks, I use Patton's Patton's Classic Worsted because it's a Aran or worsted weight sock pattern. So, forgot about that. Okay, back to this beanie. I'm like ducking so I can get you. Very messy. this is what it looks like. So there are many problems with this beanie. I'm going to step back here so you can see it on. I would like to begin with, I have a very small head. I make children. I make junior sizes in hats because my head's small. So the fact that this is so small, it's just really funny to me. I have some great, I'll probably put a picture or two of me when I finished it originally because I just had so much fun with it. Little hat. So this is made in Yarn Bee, Must Be Merino in the color olive. Sorry, my computer fell asleep again. In the color olive, and it's a majority acrylic. I think it only had like 10% merino in it. And Yarn Bee is from Hobby Lobby, so I talked a little bit about that before I started this video. So this is one of the things made in Yarn Bee, and it is an absolute failure, and I love it so very much. I think it's so funny, and I have another comically funny hat that we'll see in a minute. I do not remember what YouTube video I watched or who the creator was, so I'm sorry about that. Their beanie turned out incredible. It was what I wanted, but mine did not. So here we are with my tiny little hat. On to the next thing. Okay, this is going to be the first garment I ever finished, and I have never worn it, and I will never wear it because of several things that you will see in a moment. I'm going to take my glasses off because I can't put sweaters on with them on. But we're going to talk about this guy. I took my glasses off too early. It's fine. I don't need to see to be able to do this. This guy! Also, all of my garments are on hangers, specifically for this video. None of them are stored on hangers because that would make me a bad knitter, or bad knitwear carer, I guess. But this sweater, I'm hoping it's okay. So this sweater, this is the seamless mock neck sweater by Well Love Knits, or Bethany, who's the person behind Well Love Knits, and it is the first garment pattern I ever made, and I made it because when I started knitting and was searching up videos on how to knit and blah blah blah, I started getting recommended a lot of Bethany's videos, and so I started watching them, and I was obsessed with her seamless mock neck sweater. I was like, that is, I want it. It looks not that difficult. I've made a sock. I can do things. I know how to increase, or I know how to decrease. I'll just learn how to increase, and it'll be fine. Is that my girl? Ripley! Come here. Come. Up. Up. Hi. Come here. Up. Up. Hi. Oh, thank you. Hi, friends. This is Ripley, if you have not met her. She is a 75-pound land seal, also known as a lab. Okay. Goodbye. Thank you for saying hi. She wanted to leave. That was Ripley. She is almost 4, which is absolutely insane, but she is one of my family's 2 dogs. She is the best and the sweetest girl in the entire world. Let's get back to talking about this sweater. So, you can see there's still ends hanging out. So, there's a couple things about this that I want to talk about. First, my yarn choice. So, I lost my train of thought. This is also a Yarn Bee yarn. I do not remember what it is or what the name of the color is, but it's this tweed thing, and you can probably see one of the issues that I'll talk about in a minute. But the first being the yarn, I believe that it calls for bulky, and this is super bulky. So I made the size that I fit, which was a medium, but I made it with a much bigger yarn, and so the sweater is much bigger than it's supposed to be. And then let's talk about the other issue that I think already has been shown. But I know there's lots of tweed bits, but so if you look here, everything looks nice. Look here, it does not look nice. Like, what is happening? That was my question, and I could not figure it out. And then I learned that I was twisting my purl stitches. So I was knitting correctly, so I knit continentally, and so I learned how to do the knit stitch continental, and then I learned how to purl, but I was wrapping my yarn the wrong way. So all of my purl stitches were twisted, and this part is worked back and forth, as opposed to this, which was in the round. And so if you could see, this is a double folded brim, so if you could see the inside, all the purls would be twisted. So it'd be like a weird half twisted rib. But let's see. Yeah, you can see it let me show you the bottom. You can see it here. It's twisted. So it's incredibly heavy. Like, this is a very bulky item. And it also has the twisted stitches, which I don't like. And I think I mentioned this, I live in Houston. So there is no time when this thick a sweater will work for me. Even like if I go somewhere very cold, this sweater will not work. But I'm gonna try it on for you anyway so you can see. And it does not have short rows or anything, so the front and back are exactly the same. So it doesn't, oh my god, it's so heavy. Oh, and the bind off's really tight. Yeah. Here's hoping I don't get, I feel a little bit like the kid in A Christmas Story when he's like bundled up and he falls over. So it sits funny here, partially because of the twisting, partially because there are no short rows. I didn't pick up stitches well. It's not comfortable to wear. Like, I love the tweed. I would love to make something in a very similar color to this with the like oatmeal-y and then the black, like, are they nips? Is that what they're called? Nips? Nubs? I don't know. Whatever the little tweedy bits are called. It has like some nice like coffee colored and some darker black ones. So I really do love the color of this. That's really, and this is no shade to the pattern whatsoever. I think it's a great pattern, as you will see in my next object. So let's get this off and we'll talk about the next one. Okay. I think for this I'm just going to leave my glasses off because I don't need to really see anything. And I'm going to be taking jumpers on and off. So the reason why I made that sweater was specifically because I decided to buy the yarn called for in the pattern, which was, there's two options. There was Alpacino Merino from Wool and the Gang or Drops Andes. I couldn't figure out at the time how to get Drops Andes, which was the more budget-friendly option. So I got yarn from Wool and the Gang, which is expensive yarn. So I decided to make a practice version, which was that because I did not want to make a bad version with this nice yarn. So that was my practice. Didn't turn out great. Couldn't figure out what was going on with my purl stitches, even when I started this one, which I don't know if you can tell, looks much better, much nicer. This one has been blocked. So the other one had not been blocked because I don't know what that is, and it's mostly acrylic, so I'd have to steam block it, and I don't really want to do that. So I made this one in Al Pacino Merino from Wool and the Gang in the color Eucalyptus Green. This yarn is so soft. So soft. It does pill quite a bit, so I haven't done anything. I haven't shaved any of these garments. I don't know if you can see the pilling. I have shaved it before, but I didn't shave them for this video. And again, because I live in Houston, I haven't been able to wear this one much because it doesn't give me winter vibes. Like, it's too light a green for me to feel like holiday wear. This is more of like a February, March wear thing. I did get to wear it when I went to Colorado in March of it's still 2022, in March of this year. That's the place I got to wear it. So let's try this on. Oop. The hanger just went through the sweater. This one also had, the pattern doesn't have short rows, so. Alrighty, so this is it. So, this one looks much better than the last one because I used the correct yarn and I figured out what I was doing to my stitches. So, I was twisting them, and so I did the whole yoke, I got to the knitting back and forth, and they were still, like, I tried everything. I thought my tension was off, so I was trying, like, using different needle sizes for knits and purls, and it wasn't doing anything. And then finally, somehow in all of my searching, which I did for weeks, it took me so long to figure out what I was doing wrong, I've learned I was just knitting my purl stitches, wrapping the yarn the wrong way around. And so I frogged, and then I figured it out. And so, again, I haven't worn this sweater very much. I do think there are some things I would probably do differently if I remade this pattern. I'd probably try to add some short rows so it doesn't do the, like, that thing. Because I'm pretty sure that's part of what short rows help with. And also the sleeves are a little bit weird. I think that maybe either picking up less stitches or doing some decreases, it just feels, because there's like no increases, but it gets down here and it feels very, like it goes from tighter to wider, which isn't the worst thing, but I would probably try to change that. But I do really love the sweater. I love the color. There is kind of a green theme that's going to be happening. It's really mostly neutral. Like, I pulled out all of my swatches, and I'll insert a picture of them. These aren't all of them, but it's the majority of them. There are only three bright swatches. There's 2 green and 1 red. I'm hopefully have put it up on the screen so you can see. And everything else is like purple, green, brown, cream. So that's the color palette. I mean, I have some brighter accessories is what the bright ones are for. Because I just don't wear super bright colors in my life, I guess. It's just not my style as much. Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is another very comical hat. So, this hat, boy oh boy. I'm trying to hold it where you can't see it yet. It looks like this. This is also a yarn from Hobby Lobby. So it's Yarn Bee, and then I think it's like Teddy or something. So it's like it's kind of like a boucle. And I wanted to make a boucle bucket hat. And Bethany, again of Well Loved Knits, had a tutorial for it with yarn that I thought I couldn't get in the US. I mean, I have to order it from the UK, but I can get it. She used like a mixture of drops yarns using drops alpaca boucle, I think or it's just a boucle, I don't know. But I was like, this'll work. And boy oh boy was I wrong. Let's try this guy on. So look at this thing. It's insane. The ends are not woven in, so I'm going to show it to you with all the little ends hanging out. And it kind of looks like one of those hats that has the corks on it in Australia to keep the mosquitoes away. Also looks kind of like it looks like a helmet, like World War I style helmet. So there's not much to say about this other than it's a monstrosity, but I don't know what to do with it. So it just lives in my closet. Again, because I think it's absolutely hilarious. And I wouldn't even know where to begin to undo this because you can't see the stitches at all. Like, I know there's a little hole right in the middle where it's like, I think I knotted it. Like, I wouldn't know where to begin. I don't know what I would do with the yarn. So that's hat fail number 2. Let's move on. Okay, so the next sweater I made is one that is not size inclusive. It is by My Favorite Things Knitwear, who is kind of notorious for not making size inclusive patterns. I haven't been following it closely, but I do think she is starting to release more sizes, but I don't think she has any plans to go back and adjust the ones that she's done, like the way that Petite Knit has when she came under fire for not being size inclusive. She's gone back and is grading her patterns to be size inclusive. So this is not a size inclusive pattern. I believe it only goes up to an extra large, and I'll have the sizing info somewhere on the screen. I don't remember what the seamless mock neck sweater is. I believe it goes up to a 4XL, but I'll put that when I talked about that one. So this is my next sweater that I made. It's sweater number 9 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. So it's the kind of very classic raglan with the cool pearl bits on the increases. And yeah, I actually did not get to wear this sweater until this week because I finished this in February and I had to perform surgery on the neckline. So you can actually see there's still a little end. I've made this the back neck so nobody can see it under my hair, because I have to figure out how to weave it. It might require some spit splicing with the yarn I have left over, but I can't be stuffed right now. But I made this in Barocco yarn. I used Barocco Moncada, which I believe is 100% wool, and then I used Barocco Ariel, which is their silk mohair, and I believe they were both in cream. The wonderful ladies at one of my local yarn stores helped me pick it out because I I think that was like the first purchase I made at a local yarn store. And so there are some errors, like there are bits where there are kind of more holy bits, but overall I really do love this sweater. I've been wearing it quite a bit this week because it's been so cold, but let's try it on. So I did just block it like last week because I knew the cold was coming and I wanted something that could kind of feel like festive. And since it was cream, it kind of checked the boxes. So I believe I knit a size medium. If I knit a different size, I will put it on the screen. But my row gauge was very, very off. So I believe I have the notes in Ravelry. If I don't, I will try to remember what I did differently. But I really do love these raglan increases. I do think it's a beautiful sweater. It just is super unfortunate that it is not a size inclusive pattern, because like so many people have made this. It's super popular on Instagram, which is how I found it. I saw other people's and was like, I'm gonna make that because I fit into a size medium, so it wasn't something that I thought about. So I normally make things pretty cropped. I didn't crop this one as much. Like, I wear my pants very high. So this is it. It does have negative ease. I probably would like a little bit more negative ease, or positive ease. It does not have negative ease. I wish it had more positive ease, so I wish it was bigger. But I think that was a gauge problem. I think it's supposed to be bigger than it is. But this is the third sweater I made, and I would say that it is, of the first three I made, it is my favorite. Just like wearability. I like the yarn. It's not, I mean, it's a little, it's really not itchy. Like, when I was knitting it, the mohair, the way I was holding the mohair and the yarn together, it was like digging into my finger. Now I've worked with mohair enough that I don't have that problem, but it hurt my hands to knit it, so I thought I wasn't gonna like how it felt, just partially why I didn't block it when I finished it. And the neck surgery, because the neck was like up here. It was so long, and I knit it to the size of the pattern, but I think in the pattern the rib kind of comes farther down, and it just didn't do that. It just went up and sat. So there's also no short rows in this one. I feel like it could probably use a little bit of short row shaping, but that's okay. Okay, so the next thing that I made was a gift knit. So I'm gonna insert a picture. This is Cardigan number 7, also by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and it, again, is not a size inclusive pattern. I made this as a present for my aunt because she had asked me to make her something, and I was just like, sure. So this is the pattern I gave her options. This was the pattern she picked out, and I made it in a mix of Feeling Good yarn by Wool and the Gang and an acrylic from Michaels, which the pattern calls for Feeling Good yarn or drops air. And again, I hadn't figured out how to get drops yarn here yet. So I was like, okay, Wool and the Gang, it's expensive, but I'll do it. And it was for that and a silk mohair. And I was like, there's no way I can buy a silk mohair. That would be such an expensive project. And I could not get gauge with just the Feeling Good yarn. I also didn't have 7mm needles, which is what the pattern calls for. It's the same with that sweater. They both are supposed to be knit on 7mm needles, which don't exist in the United States. I now have some because I ordered them from Wool Warehouse, but I did not at the time because I didn't know Wool Warehouse existed. But it was Wool and the Gang Feeling Good in like lilac powder, I think is the name of it. And she loves it. I don't have a picture with the buttons, but she picked out mother of pearl buttons, and it fits her really well. It is very heavy because of the acrylic yarn in it, which like, part of me wishes I had waited to make it for her until I knew more, but she loves it. She wears it a lot, and it's not too heavy for her. So that was my next thing. So at the same time that I ordered the Feeling Good yarn for her cardigan, I ordered a little bit for me because I wanted to knit a balaclava because they're so cool. This is the third iteration of me trying to knit this. I have one right here that is too small and I need to frog so I can get this yarn back. This is Barocco Mochi. So it's like this beautiful tweedy blown yarn, which I really, really like, but it's just too small. It was the wrong gauge, and I might try blocking it and see if it grows, but the pattern said not to block. So, but this I made, and this is the Bug Hood by Rose Knitwear, like ROWS. I believe it comes in one size, so not size inclusive. Normally, I think hats come in more sizes. Hats and balaclavas, I believe, come in more sizes than that, but I'm not 100% sure. But this is knit in 2 strands of Feeling Good yarn by Wool and the Gang in the color mauve. Mellow mauve. I think it's mellow mauve. So it's this gorgeous color, and it makes me look like a little bug, which is the point. So let's do this. I'm a bug. I like to wear it off of my head, actually. Either with my hair tucked in or just as a little hood. I think it's very cute. It's very soft around my neck. I think the ribbing is longer than I would like it to be, but it is supposed to like come up. Let's get my hair back in it and see. The way my hair is sitting is just... Let's stuff it back in there. But it'll come up to like the chin. My camera cut me off. It'll like come up to the chin. That's my bug hood. I mean, I really do love it. I have had no chances to wear it as a balaclava because I don't live in a climate where balaclavas are needed. But I love this one. The yarn's great. Oh my god. I probably look insane taking this on and off, but it's okay. I'm fine with it. Alrighty. On to the next thing, which is this cardigan, which is a monster of a cardigan. It's very heavy, and it has bubble stitch sleeves! Oh my god, I was obsessed with bubble stitch. I finished these sleeves so quickly, it was like, oh my gosh, I get to do another bubble stitch. So this is the, it's the Hubble Bubble cardigan by Kat and Leni. This is also not a size inclusive pattern. I think there are only 3 or 4 sizes. But I used Lion Brand Wool Ease Thick and Quick in the color Fairy for this. So it's a very big yarn. I changed needle sizes because I did a swatch and I didn't like how the fabric looked on the needle size that the pattern called for, which I think was like a 15 millimeter. I think I used a 12.5 millimeter. Is that a size? I don't know. But let's try this on. Oh, so it is huge in the sense that it's heavy. It doesn't, the button, there's no buttons, so it's supposed to sit open like this. Which, like, it's cute, right? Maybe. I just hit my straw. It's cute. Don't really have many occasions to wear it. It's a little bit bright for me. But I saw the color and was obsessed. So I made this. And yeah, so it's fun. You knit it in, you knit it back and forth. It's, I can't remember if it's bottom up or top down, but I feel like it was bottom up. I was gonna say I haven't done a bottom up pattern, but I think this one was. Maybe, I think it was. I think I cropped it a little bit too, because my waist is here. So it's cropped. I typically crop things to a little below my waist so I can do a French tuck. And yeah, it's cute. Don't wear it that often. It wasn't very expensive to make because it is a very budget-friendly yarn, and it's mostly acrylic. It has a little bit of wool in it, but I think it's wool ease because it's machine washable, if I'm interpreting that correctly. But I don't have much to say. It does pill, and I haven't worn it very much, so it is a pilly yarn, but I love the bubble stitch. I think it's so fun. I love the giant sleeves. They're like wings. But that was my next finished object. So the next one is this little guy, which you have, if you're on knitting Instagram, if you watch YouTube knitting videos, you've probably almost certainly seen this. This is another My Favorite Things knitwear pattern, and it is Camisole No. 5. So let's talk about this. This is one of the garments that does not fit me anymore. And part of that is because I sized up because my gauge was off, and it stretched so much in when blocking. It just does not fit me. It's too wide around my chest, so it does not look nice on me, which is sad because it's a gorgeous pattern. Also not size inclusive, so I am actually planning to frog this going into the new year because I used knitting for all of merino and I'm not wearing it, so there's no point in leaving it in this garment that I'm never gonna wear. So that's it. I'll insert a picture of the one, I only wore it once. I'll insert a picture of the one time I wore it, and yeah, it's sad, but also not size inclusive, and I really don't like promoting things that are not size inclusive. So on to the pile. Let me double check what was next. Here we are again with another My Favorite Things knitwear pattern. Can you tell she's like the only designer I really know about other than Bethany? Towards the beginning of my knitting journey. This one is a scarf though, so it is scarf number 1, and I made the smaller size, and this is in Sublime, let me check, Sublime Yarns in Sue, like SU green. It's this very pretty lime color, and I really do like this. I bound off a little tightly, so it does sit kind of funky, but it's also like very cute. Tied in the front. It's just a very like versatile little bandana guy. It's very soft. I believe this is a bamboo cotton. Or no, it might be Tencel and bamboo. I don't remember exactly. But it is a summery yarn. It like, the drape is crazy. But that was my next project. I actually have made a second one of these for my mom. I made the bigger version, and I used bigger yarn and bigger needles because she had neck surgery in May, which is crazy. It was that long ago. And so she was in a neck brace for three or 4 months, and it was summer, so like it would just rub against her skin. And so I made her a big one of these that she could put under her neck brace. So I made 2 of those. Next is something that I love very much, but that cannot be worn right now because of the temperature, and it is this. So we're sticking with the Well Loved Knits theme because this is based off of Bethany's retro v-neck sweater. So if you follow her and watch her videos, she made a vest first and then decided to turn it into a sweater, and I was obsessed with the vest. She ended up not releasing it as a vest pattern because she couldn't get, I think, the armhole correct. So I decided to take it upon myself to make a vest version. And this is so loosely following her pattern because my gauge was off. And as you can see, there's some like little wing, almost wing things happening. But I still love it. So this is the one knit that does live on a hanger because the hanger doesn't do anything to the shape. So it kind of looks like, I think Jessie May Designs has a pattern that looks kind of similar. It's like something to do with like a butterfly. What I could do really is like graft this together a little bit, but it doesn't bother me enough to do that. So this is in Noro Kakigori in the color 01, which I believe is Naha. So it's this beautiful, I should have done a close-up before. Here, I'm just going to take it off and do a close-up. So it is this beautiful, beautiful yarn, which is a mix of cotton, bamboo, silk, and then nylon, I think. I can't, but it's this beautiful color changing yarn. And it's very similar to the Noro single solo sock in the colorway that everybody loves. It's just a more summery kind of version of that. So that, I love it. It's very fun to wear in the summer, just over a t-shirt because it's very light. And yeah, I love this one. So I don't know why oh, this one lives on a hanger. That's why I'm putting it back on the hanger. Okay. So now we're getting into things that have, no, we are not yet. So next up we have the Berry Special Socks, which are by Charlotte Stone of Stone Knits. I have a little, I was wearing them the other day and there's a little end poking out, so I gotta go in and fix that, but I'll show you one where the end is not poking out. But I love these socks. These are the first Colorwork socks I made. Also the first fingering yarn weight socks that I made, because the camp socks are worsted or Aran weight. And this was my first time doing color work, and I made the ambitious decision to make these, which used 3 colors at once in some places. So probably not the best beginner color work pattern, but I loved them and was like, I'm doing it. So they took me a while, but I love them. And my floats are very tight, so they do not stretch very much. So it is very difficult to get them on and off of my feet, but I suffer through it and get them on, and then they fit perfectly fine once they're on. It's just getting them over my heel. And I used a combination of drops, Fable and drops Nord for these. I believe the pink is drops Nord. I think the red is drops Nord, and the green is drops Fable. But I could be wrong. I cannot remember for the life of me. So these were the first socks that I blocked also. I bought sock blockers specifically for these, and I'm very glad that I did, because Colorwork needs to be blocked. But these are my very special socks, and I love them. Ooh. Okay. After that, we have the first ever test knit that I did. So let's grab it. And these are the shorts I was talking about earlier. They are the Hemingway shorts. Please ignore all the creases. I have talked about these on the podcast, I believe, because I think I finished them when I was first I think I finished them in July, so it would have been my first podcast. So these are the Hemingway shorts by Laura Booth, who is on Instagram as the Knitting Booth. This is her first pattern, and my goodness, it is so well done and well written. She has options if you're, so you take your waist, like your natural waist, and then your hip measurement, which is going to be like your widest point. And if the proportion isn't what's written in the pattern, she has a guide on how to make more increases to get them to the correct width for your hip and thighs, which is awesome. I did just one of the straight sizes. I believe I made size E. And I haven't tried these on a while, but I do believe they're going to be, maybe not. They might not be too big now, but it's too cold to try them on. I used the yarn that was called for in the pattern, which is Drops, I almost said Drops Fable. It's not Drops Fable. It's Drops Belle, which is a cotton viscose linen blend, I believe. So it has this very lovely, almost like heathered, like there's dimension to the yarn, which I really like. And this is the exact color that Laura knit hers in. And I was obsessed with it in the picture, so I was like, I'm just going to make the same thing because that's what I want. And the other colors I liked were sold out, so this was how I went. So they're called the Hemingway shorts because they have 5 double folded hems. So you have the hem in the waistband, you have the 2 hems for the pockets, and then you have the hems for both of the legs. And you can make them with or without pockets. What I did, because I knit the pockets and I did not like how they looked with the pockets, but I wanted the pocket band, is I ripped out the pockets and just did the pocket band. So it's fake. They're fake pockets, which I always complain about in pants, but for these, it's okay. Because I knew going in that they were going to be fake pockets. But I love these. I wore them all summer. It stays warm in Houston and they're just very comfortable. The yarn is very soft. It's super drapey. And I really need to wash and reblock these guys because it's been a while since I've worn them. And they could probably use a bath. So, on to the next thing, which, wow, this is definitely going to be 2 videos. I'm almost certain of it because I have too many things to get through. And my next one, which I am also not going to try on now because I am too cold, is the Pure Mesh Pullover by James & Watts. So let's see if it's this beautiful lace pattern that looks like a fishnet. And I'm obsessed with this. I love it so much. The yarn is from an indie dyer, I believe, who's based in San Antonio. I don't know what her name is, but the company is Euphoria Knits. And I met her at a trunk show at one of my local yarn stores, and I bought this, and this is, I believe the base is Frenzy, which is a sock weight yarn. It's, I think, 80-20 or 75-25. Superwash to nylon, in the color Sterling. So it's this beautiful gray that's a very, I would consider a silver tone gray because of the way the yarn is done. It kind of looks like chainmail, which I'm just realizing, and I kind of love that. I love wearing this. It's great, very fun to wear with like a fun like sports bra or bralette under it. It's just looks very cute, and I like doing that. I made a size small because the size medium and the size small were the same, like, stitch counts. It was just the length, and I wanted it cropped. And the one thing I have a couple of problems. The ends are like, they won't stretch at all. I stretched them as far out as they could go. And so it is difficult to take on and off. And I used the old Norwegian cast on, or the German twisted cast on. I think they're the same. And also the neckline really needs some elastic in it because it does weird things like stand up. And I wish I had done a tubular bind off for it, so it would be stretchier. But other than that, I love this. I love wearing it. Just too cold to try it on. On to the next. I keep saying that. I hope it's not annoying. So the next thing up, so everything now, except maybe some of the things I made this month, because I'm not doing a podcast for December. I'm just including everything in here. But they still have an end that I haven't cut. I've worn them though. So these are just a pair of vanilla socks that I made. I used Drops Fable in the colorway Lavender. And it's this beautiful self-striping yarn. The 2 socks do not look the same at all, but that's fine. I do find this yarn to be a little bit itchy on my feet, to be honest. Like, I know I'm wearing them, which I don't really like the feeling of. So I'm probably going to give these to my mom. But this was just a self-drafted 60 stitch count on 2.25 millimeter needles. I think I did about 60 rows, and then I did a German short row heel, and then I did just toe decreases to make it rounded, and then I Kitchener stitched the remaining stitches together. So not much to say about these. I think they're very pretty, and I really like how they fold up with the German short row heel, even though I think German short row heel isn't the best fit for my feet. So, on to the next. I'm saying it again, I really need to come up with something different. This is the remainder of the garments. So, this is the next thing I made. So, this is the Cumulus Tee by Petite Knit. So this is actually the first, let's see. Yep. First Petite Knit pattern I followed. So I moved from My Favorite Things Knitwear to Petite Knit. And I absolutely love this. I used less traveled yarn. I get confused by their name because it's different like on Instagram than it is actually, but Less Traveled Yarn Company. I used their Paloma base, which has a little bit of silk in it in the color olive. And I did not alternate skeins because I didn't really know that was a thing, so it does have a little bit of pooling, but I'm very happy with how it turned out. At the time, I did not have 3mm needles because those also do not exist in the US. And so I used 2.75 and my gauge was way off. So again, I don't remember exactly what I did to combat that. It is on my Ravelry, which will be linked below. And it has been all nice and folded up, so it has a little crease down the middle, which steam blocking would fix pretty quickly. But I guess I'll try it on over my long sleeve top just to give you an idea. I used 299 grams of yarn to make this. Oh god, putting on clothes is hard, especially when they're not meant to be worn on top of things. Okay, this does not look great the way that it's on me right now, but it's okay. It just has a little bit more positive ease. My goodness. A little bit more positive ease when there's not a thick long sleeve shirt under it. Shocking, I know. So with the sleeves, I know I didn't do the sleeve decreases when you do the I-cord. I think I just went down a needle size and didn't do the decreases because when I did the decreases, I could not get it on my arm. Again, my gauge was off. So I am about to start making another one of these. I swatched for it last night and I got gauge on my 3mm needles. So I'm going to have one that actually fits like it's supposed to. This is a pattern that only goes up to a 3XL. I mentioned I mentioned earlier that Petite Knit has gone back into her old patterns and has made them more size inclusive. What I've said with these is I don't know if these ones have been made more size inclusive or if the 3XL is as high as she's going to go or if she's going to go back and add up to a 5XL, which typically is for a 60 inch full bust, which I think is about 150 centimeters. So do keep that in mind if size inclusivity is something that you look for. I did make this one. I started making it before size inclusivity was something on my radar. So that's that one. Man, we're almost at an hour. Jeez. Okay, next up, my second Petite Knit pattern. Almost all of these, the remainder of these patterns are going to be Petite Knit. But I made my first Oslo beanie. Doo-doo-doo. Doo-doo. Put it on. So, it's very tall. It's a little bit too big because I didn't take my head measurement because I was like, I'm an adult, I will make a small adult. My size would be a junior large or a junior. So it's too big. It sits up. I like the little poof. It looks cuter than I remember it looking, but it did like grow a lot because it is a superwash merino. And this is also another yarn from Hobby Lobby. This is one of their hand-dyed yarns. So it's Yarn B Authentic Hand-Dyed Vivid in the color Lime. And that is a DK weight. So I believe it is a DK weight yarn. I believe that the pattern calls for 2 fingering weights to make a DK, but it was DK on its own. Also didn't gauge swatch for this. And this yarn was, I had started a different project that I ended up frogging, and so I just had this yarn sitting around and I thought it would make a very pretty beanie. So yeah, this is the Oslo hat by Petite Knit. It's a very popular pattern. It has this double folded, which when you fold over becomes triple folded brim, which I love. It's like nice and soft and warm and lovely. It's superwash, so it's not scratchy at all. But again, I no longer buy any yarn from Hobby Lobby or anything from Hobby Lobby. That's my first Oslo hat. Okay, then after that, I made another version of Cardigan No. 7, which I will insert pictures of. And this was also a gift knit, so I do not have it. It was for my best friend. I started making this right when I started seeing discourse on size inclusivity. So because I had started it, I finished it. Okay, I had to take a little break, but I am back. Alrighty, so we just finished talking about the second Cardigan No. 7 I made. I showed you a picture of it. This time I used Drops Air and Drops Kids Silk in purple mix and like haze, I think is the mohair, or purple haze. I genuinely cannot remember. And I gave it to my best friend and she loved it. Oh my goodness. I jumped. I made a big old jump. Oops. Okay, let's go back a little bit, because apparently I finished two other things before I finished the Oslo hat. I cast on the Oslo hat first though, so that's why I swapped them in my brain. But if you've been around my channel, been around Instagram, you probably recognize this sweater. This is the Ingrid sweater by Petite Knit. I made a video where I didn't like show you guys the pattern or anything, but I just kind of took footage and stuff of me making it, because this is the most intense pattern I'd ever done at this point in time. I mean, it still is the most complicated, but I made this in 2 weeks because it was just so, I think people call it potato chippy, where you just like keep eating potato chips because they're just so good and you want more. It was like that. And so the modifications I did, I made it shorter, so I omitted the 1x1 rib that normally goes at the bottom. I changed the neckline to be a 2x2 folded collar instead of the 2x2 eyelet row 1x1 turtleneck-ish, like a little bit higher. And I lengthened the arms because I have pretty long arms. So this guy needs to be reblocked. I've been wearing it quite a bit. It's lost a little bit of its shape, but I will still try it on after I show you a close-up. So I used Barocco Ultra Alpaca in the color Steel Cut Oats. So because I live in Houston, I decided I did not want to hold a yarn with a mohair to make this. So I just held a worsted weight yarn by itself. So this is it. It needs to be reblocked because the ribbing has kind of like shrunk in a little bit, especially in the sleeves. So it just needs to have a nice little soak and a nice little block. But I love it so much. I've worn it a lot and it really hasn't pilled a ton. I'm obsessed with it. I think it's beautiful. Like, this is, I think, the biggest accomplishment I've made this in my first year of knitting was making this. Even though while knitting, I didn't find it difficult. I still think that it was a big project to tackle, and it really did kind of push me to learn new things. And so I'm very grateful for this sweater. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. We've only got 4 more garments left. Crazy. So the next thing that I finished before I finished that Oslo beanie is my first Cumulus blouse. So again, if you've been around, you've seen this. And I love it so much. It's probably, for the amount of time I've had it, it's my most worn knit. I do have another one that's coming up close to it. But this is the Cumulus blouse by Petite Knit. Like the Cumulus tee, it only goes up to a 3XL. I knitted, but it runs large. So most people size down when they knit this pattern. My gauge was off, and I decided instead of making partway between a small and a medium, that I would just make a medium, and I got a great fit. I lengthened the V-neck. I did some more raglan increases, and for the body I decreased less than you're supposed to when doing the I-cord, and I made the sleeves longer. But other than that, I just made a medium. And I love it so much. It is the perfect fall layering piece, or just layering piece in Houston if it's a little bit chillier. I love it. I love wearing it with a white shirt underneath it, tucking it into my pants. I love it. It's just, it fits so nicely. I love how it looks on me. I wear it over dresses, and it's so versatile. I don't know. I used Drops Kid Silk, held double, in the color mauve, and it's a little bit itchy, but it's not on my neck, it's not on my forehead, and I always wear something underneath it, so it really doesn't bother me. My arms aren't as sensitive like as my neck and my chest is, and it doesn't ever sit directly on my chest, so I love it. I really recommend this pattern. I think it's so flattering. Not that things need to be flattering. I just think it looks very nice on, I haven't seen like it look not good on anyone. So it's very fun. I mean, it is a little bit tedious, but I really don't mind it at all. I actually found it quite meditative and just a very nice garment to knit, which is why I've made it twice, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, so the next little thing on the list, get him off of here, is Frog. Look at the little guy. Isn't he precious? My channel's Popsicle-Frog knit, so I had to make Frog. It was required. His name is Pico. His name was Pico before I started knitting, because I used to post art on Instagram, and for some reason the name I came up with was Popsicle-Frog. And when I started knitting, I just kind of changed it to be a knitting account, because I lost kind of my inspiration and desire to draw, which is partially why I picked up knitting. It's because I was feeling very uninspired, and just not happy with the work I was making. And so his name's Pico, which my best friend named him, and his name used to be spelled Picco. And then when I made a video about making Frog, Chelsea of True Lane Knits, or True Lane, she does a True Lane knitting podcast, and on Instagram she's at True Lane. I love her podcast. You really should watch them. Everything she makes is beautiful. But she pointed out that I could spell it P-I-C-O-T, like Pico in knitting. And when I say, I almost screamed when I saw that, because I was like, that is the most perfect thing and such a hilarious coincidence. So yeah, that's Frog. I used Drops Lima, or no, maybe Drops Lima or Drops, I think it was Drops Lima. Drops Lima in olive mix and cream to make his little tummy and his body. And then I used, I believe, 12 millimeter safety eyes for his eyes. And then I did feed wire through him, so he is bendy. But if you look closely, there's some wire poking out because it broke. So I really gotta figure out how to fix him so he doesn't stab anyone. He's a dangerous frog. But I love him. He's my little mascot. I took him on my trip to Europe with me, and it was fantastic. Maybe I'll put a picture of him in a museum. I have lots of pictures that I just haven't posted on Instagram because I'm not sure they go with my vibe. God, who am I? They don't really go with the aesthetic I have going. So I'm going to insert some here because they're great pictures and someone needs to see them other than me. Okay, we're getting towards the end here. So the next thing I made is this, which is the Traveler's Cardigan by Ozetta Knitwear, also Haley Smedley. So she was the first person whose pattern I followed. And then I made this one when, like, as soon as she released it, I bought it and bought the yarn because I think it is a wonderful, wonderful alternative to Cardigan No. 7. The only difference, one, the button band construction, two, it's drop shoulder and not raglan, and that's it. It has bubble sleeves. It has bubble sleeves, it has a timeless feel, and it's great. I don't wear it buttoned. I had some issues with the button band, but it's a really great classic cardigan that has beautiful bubble sleeves. I think it's very timeless, and I love it. Lost my train of thought. So I made this in Wool Dreamers Manchalope, which is a unspun pencil roving from Spain, and it is the yarn called for in the pattern. And it was my first time working with unspun yarn, and there's a learning curve, definitely. It breaks so easily, so I had to get really careful with my tension. And it was the first time I'd done a button band while knitting the body, and I gotta be honest, not my favorite thing. Yeah, I did not enjoy doing that, the whole like DPNs. I'd rather pick up stitches and knit a button band than knit it as I go, which is actually what I'm doing right now because I'm making this cardigan for my mom. So I decided to omit the button band knitting while I do the body and add a button band at the end. So let's see if I can show. So again, very classic, very timeless. The color I used is natural mid-gray, so it's undyed, and it is from Manchega Sheep. It's really nice. Also the tubular bind off with the pencil roving was horrible. It breaks so much. I was having to use water like every couple of stitches to put my yarn back together instead of spit splicing because I don't like doing that with spit. And so for my mom's, I just did normal cast off. I just did it very loosely, and this yarn is stretchy on its own. So tubular bind off was unnecessary in my opinion. But I typically love a tubular bind off. It's my favorite way to finish things, but not doing it with this one again. So that's this. And we have 2 more garments and then a handful of accessories. Let's see what's next. Okay, next up is my Sophie scarf. So, I went to, for the month of October, I was in Europe, and I did not knit during October. Because I was traveling and I just didn't have like any knitting mojo. And so when I got back, I needed something to like get me back into knitting. I wanted an easy project, and I had wanted to make a Sophie scarf before I went on my trip, and I didn't have time. And so I made one when I got, this is not sitting the way I want. I don't know how to make these things sit pretty. Let's we'll just do this for right now. Okay, so one end ended up being way longer than the other because I'm in there somewhere, so it's really noticeable right now. But I really love it. So I used leftover drops air from the cardigan I made for my best friend, and I didn't use that much of it. I made the small size on the needles it called for. I didn't gauge swatch because I don't really do that for accessories. And I haven't gotten to wear it anywhere, but I'm very happy with it. It was a good little project. I did it in like 2 days while I was sick. So really fun, great way to use up scrap yarn. Yeah. After that is what I would probably consider my favorite thing I've made this year. So let's grab it. And I have not shut up about this cardigan since I made it. And it is the Champagne Cardigan by Petite Knit. I just put this one on. I didn't even try to show it to you on the hanger. I love it so much. The yarn that I used is La Bien-Aimée Corey worsted in the color High Garden. This was yarn that I bought in Paris for my birthday. So it's very special because I bought it when I was on a trip with my best friend, and I got it for my birthday, and I got LBA yarn that's dyed in Paris, which I just think is very cool. And I absolutely adore this cardigan. I love it so much. If you want to hear me talk way more about it, you can watch my last knitting podcast. That was everything I knit in November. And I'm obsessed. Here, let me take it off and show it to you up close. Put it back on the hanger. Ooh. It's this beautiful purple that has, because it has both black and white fibers that have been dyed, it just has so much dimension to it. Or like, it's probably gray yarn that's been dyed. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but it is, I 100% am going to make another one of these. The one thing with this yarn is that it pills like it pills so bad. I really need to give it another, part of it is I have a side bag that I wear sitting here, and so when I wear this, it really rubs, so I can't wear that bag with this anymore. But I do need to go over it with my yarn shaver. But it is so soft, it is so warm, it's not itchy. I thought it was going to be, and it's not. And it is I just wear it all the time. I wear it with everything. It's fantastic. I have nothing but good things to say about it, and I probably will make another one. Okay, so then we have my next item that is my last garment, and that is my second Cumulus blouse. So I've also talked about this one in a recent podcast, so I'm not going to do too much, but this is Cumulus blouse, also medium. My gauge was the same as before, so I made very similar modifications, except the sleeves are shorter. I did not lengthen them. The body is shorter. I did deepen the V-neck. So the reason the sleeves and the body are shorter is because I got this yarn from an in-stock update by Red Door Fibre Studios, who you 100% should go check out because her yarn is incredible and she seems like just a very fun person. Her name's Kate. Meant to say that, didn't. But it was an in-stock update, so I was only able to get 3 skeins, and the pattern calls for 200 grams of mohair held double, and I only had 150 grams of mohair held double. So I'm very happy with this. The color is Thought for a Thought, which is from her A Court of Thorns and Roses series, or Court of Thorns and Roses collection, based on the series. And I'm just absolutely obsessed with both the books and this yarn and this top. It's this beautiful silvery gray. The halo just makes it so ethereal, and I'm so excited to have this in my wardrobe. This is going to be less of a like everyday wear like the mauve one is, and more fancy special occasion-y, because the mohair's so nice. It's so soft, and I just love it. So that's the last garment that I made. Since then, I have been working on my mom's Christmas present, which I did not get done in time for Christmas, so it is not a finished object, which is why I'm not showing it. And I've been working on a handful of accessories. Okay, so let's just go ahead and grab all of the accessories that I've made. And we will start with, not this one, we've shown that one. Let's see which one was first. Okay, first was this second Oslo hat. This is the Oslo hat mohair edition, and as you can see, it looks very, very different to my first Oslo hat. So, let's put this, do a close-up of the yarn, and put it on. So this is made in yarn that I bought in Barcelona from Leni, which is a yarn store there. It is their in-house yarn. It's called Leni, I believe. It's Z-E-N-I-T in the colorway Albert, and it is held with Rowan Kid Silk Haze in the color Nectar. And it is just this beautiful, fluffy, wonderful beanie. This is very much the style of beanie I like more, where it's shorter, has a smaller brim, and I'm just obsessed. So I knit a large junior to fit my head, and it fits really well. So I'm going to leave this on while I talk about the next object, which was not in my last podcast. I did these afterwards, but using the yarn left over from this hat, I made a pair of penny gloves, which everyone has been making, but they're so beautiful. They match. So I have a little accessory set. Let's see. So let's talk about these for a minute. I started making these on, I can't remember what size needles. It wasn't what was called for. It was either 3.25 or 2.75. I ended up going down to 2.5. 2.5, I believe. because the gauge was just way off and it was huge on me. And even when I started with the pattern as it is called for, and I went down the needle sizes, I still needed to do less stitches. So I did not make as many stitches, did not cast on as many stitches as the pattern calls for, and they fit really well. So, oh, I have them on the wrong hands. So the way I know which one goes on which hand is the thumb on this finger is longer, so the thumb on the glove is longer. This is the longer thumb glove, so I just got them switched up. So this one is the one I put on my right hand, this is the one I put on my left hand, flopped them. But I love them. I love that they match my hat. It's a really fun pattern. I was a little worried about the DPNs, but it worked out super well. Not hard. I normally hate DPNs, and I'm not a magic loop person because I can never get it to look right. It always ladders. So those are the penny gloves. I'll take that off now. Let's get on to my final item for the year, which is also an accessory. I talked about this one in the podcast, but this is my Sophie shawl. So it's just a gigantic version of the Sophie scarf. It is a different pattern, but really you could just use the Sophie scarf and make it super big. But it's this beautiful, I normally hate garter stitch, but in this I think it's lovely. So let's see. There's so many different ways to wear it. So you could do it like this. I also normally don't like shawls. I don't know why I like this one. I think it's more like, it has a shawl shape, but it feels like a scarf to me. But another way I like to wear it, and I say I like to, I've tried it on, I haven't actually worn it like this, is like the people who are using scarves to like make balaclava kind of looking things. Like, I think that just looks very cool, and I'm very excited to have this in my wardrobe. It's very, very fun. It's also nice and warm. And so this is made in Cascade Friday Harbor, which is a wool, I can't remember if it's merino wool or just wool silk blend. And I actually have 2 dye lots in here. I don't know if you can see, there's way more speckles there than there are, oh, here we go, let's do this side. There's like speckles and then not speckles. I don't know. I don't think it comes through on the camera. You can barely notice it in person, so. But that's the Sophie shawl. I'm gonna put my glasses back on now since I'm done trying everything on. There we go. Okay, so that was everything that I knit in 2022, aka my first year of knitting. And I can't wait to see what this upcoming year has. It's cold in here. I'm actually gonna put one of these on. It's cold by these windows. Okay, so that's everything I knit. And it's been, knitting-wise, a fantastic year. Life-wise, it has not been the easiest year, but knitting has been something that has really grounded me and helped me. And I'm so, so grateful that I found this craft at the end of last year, and that it's become such a huge part of my life. And I can't believe like people actually watch my videos, and like the knitting community is just so incredible. So I want to say thank you, and for your support, for your kindness. And I'm so excited to see what the new year has in store. I definitely want to do like a winter January, February winter knitting plans video at the start of the new year. I'm gonna have a video coming out about my first project, and gonna keep doing podcast episodes. I'm not gonna do one for December since I talked about everything in this, but thank you guys so much for watching. It genuinely means so much to me. I can't express it enough. Every comment, like, subscriber, like, it overwhelms me a lot. And I'm trying to get better at responding to comments. I know that I'm not great at that sometimes, so I'm sorry, but I do love hearing from you. I hope you guys have had a wonderful holiday season. I hope you have a great New Year's, and I will see you guys in 2023. If you want to stay up to date with what I'm doing, you can follow me on Instagram. It's popsicle_frog. My Ravelry is popsicle-frog, and if you have any questions about any of the things I made, about the yarn, you can leave a comment, you can DM me on Instagram, and I'll do my best to answer all of your questions. And I would love to hear what your guys' favorite knit item you've made this year is. This is mine. It's very hard to choose because I love them, but right now this is my favorite that I've made. So again, I'll see you guys next year. It's crazy. Bye.